was the first mission that you went on?
Well, I literally landed in Afghanistan and went straight down to a place called Nadi Ali, which we renamed IED Ali.
That was obviously the fateful day for your, like, the rest of your life. Like, walk us through what actually happened.
We were just driving down this track. I was the middle vehicle. The front vehicle had gone over the IED. I went straight through the armoured door, and the vehicle moved 10 foot, and the hole of the bomb caused I was in that. The lad on top cover at the time, he was a QRH lad. He got ejected through the roof because half his body's already out anyway, so he went with the explosion. I remember the bright light, and the next thing I know, I was looking up at the vehicle, and like I was in a lot of pieces. I'd smashed my right heel bone to bits, and there was a big hole in my heel. I broke both bones in my lower right leg and lost about 5 centimetres of my weight-bearing bone. Dislocated both my knees, and my left knee had come completely detached, and there was a hole inside of my knee, and my tib and fib was sticking through that. I broke my left femur, broke my hip and dislocated it, broke my back, ruptured my spleen and broke my collarbone, and I had a cut on my chin. They had me back in the UK within 24 hours, and I died twice on the flight home. When I landed in the UK, they put me straight into an induced coma for about 3 or 4 weeks. I've gone on to do the filming on Channel 4's Hunted and be a hunter chasing people around the country, and now I've decided I'm going to go and cycle across America with 2 lungs that have only just started working again.
What is the why behind the bike ride?
I'm cycling 2,517 miles across America on one leg. Like, to cycle that distance in 22 days maximum, it'd be tough with 2 legs. You've had this bad thing on your lungs, you should have been dead. Like, why don't you just take it easy? And I'm like, why? Why should I? You've got this one beautiful life. What a tragedy would it be to just sit there and not do anything with it?
So after leaving the military, do you feel the same way, that the sacrifices you made over there and all of that work that you put in, do you feel that it was worth it for the state that the UK is in right now?
Not for the state of the country.
What has changed that has made it go from one thing to what it is now?
Tough times create strong men. Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men. Weak men create bad times create strong men, and that is what's happening.
Welcome back to the #1 podcast here in Liverpool. We're joined by a special guest in Aaron Moon. So Aaron, for those people who don't know you, just give us a bit of a brief background on who you are, where you're from, and what it is you do.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. I'm an ex-Royal Marine. I lost my leg in Afghanistan in 2009. Since then, I've gone to achieve some pretty cool things. I became a professional golfer, the world's first amputee indoor skydiving instructor, hunter on Channel 4's Hunted, and now I'm a mindset coach, and I'm setting a world record this year cycling across America.
So let's just take it back to the start. How did you actually go into the Royal Marines? What motivated you to become a Marine?
Well, back in the day, I was playing rugby as a 16-year-old kid. I broke my collarbone in 3 places, so then I realised that rugby's not going to be a career for me at that point. So I needed to find something. Never really excelled at school. It just wasn't for me, schooling. So my granddad had always told me his war stories when I was a kid, sitting on his knee, and I'd always been fascinated by that. And then when I was really tiny, I wanted to be I wanted to be a fighter pilot after watching Top Gun. But then I realised that to do that, you needed the school side of things, which I'd not really done. So I looked into the military. We were fighting in Iraq at the time. So when I did the research, the Royal Marines do the longest, hardest training of any infantry in the world. So I thought, I'm going to go and get shot at for a living. I need to be the best trained. So the Marines it was. I signed up, and away I went.
So what separates the Marines from just the standard military?
Well, I think the standard Army's training's, apologies if I get this wrong to anybody, I think it's only about 11 weeks. We do 32. We do the normal training, we go through our normal course, then on to the commando course, then we have the 4 commando tests at the end that we have to complete, and then you get your green lid, and we started with 52 lads, and there was only 12 of them, 52 left at the end. So
walk us through that, the process from the start to the end, exactly what you have to do all the way through.
It's kind of one big blur, to be honest. It's a lot of ironing, a lot of cleaning. That's probably the hardest part. No, you go on exercises in the field. So you start off, the fitness side of it's in a gym, and then after, I think it's something like 6 or 8 weeks, you have your gym pass out. So you have to pass certain fitness tests to get out the gym. Then you go on bottom field fitness, which is more battle ready fitness. So it's like assault courses, firemen's carries, all that kind of crawling through all the mud and stuff, climbing 30-foot ropes outside with all your kit on and stuff like that. And then in between doing all your phys as well, you're out in the field on exercises, And the exercises all differ depending on what stage of training you're at. To like, you have navigational exercises, survival exercises where you go in with hardly any kit and you've got to survive a certain amount of time, learn how to like catch and kill your own food and that kind of stuff. And as training progresses, that ramps up. And then on the side of all that, you've got a training team that just want to make your life a living hell and beast, the living daylights out here.
What kind of things were they doing to you?
Like, the biggest thing is the mental side of it, I think, where you could be having an amazing week, you've got nothing wrong, but they will find something, and you'll be in your head, you'll be like, I'm smashing this now, and they'll bring you straight back down to the ground, telling you how worthless you are. They'll pick I can remember once I'd made my bed in the morning, we stood at the end of the bed for an inspection, and the corporal opened the door, and as the door opened, a little bit of fluff flew in and landed on the end of my bed. He saw it happen, I saw it happen, but it was my fault. And my bed got ragged to bits, my stuff got dragged out my cupboard, which then you've got your day's itinerary anyway, which is long and hard anyway, and then at the end of the day you've got to get your kit ready for the next day. But now I've got extra kit to get ready because and every time something like that happens, you just see your hours of sleep slipping away from you because you're looking at it thinking like, oh, I might have got like 3 hours tonight after I cleaned all my kit and I'd done everything I need to do. Now I'm only going to get 2 because I've got to clean this kit as well and have this ready. It's my bedding, so I can't get in bed without that. And it's just little things like that where they break you and break you and break you and break you, and you've just got to remember the next day is another day and we'll go again.
So what was the hardest part for you then in terms of the training? Was it that nitty gritty of like the psychological sort of warfare they were committing on you, or was it the hard training and then going from day to day having to train hard?
I think it's a mixture of them all. If you just had the psychological side of it, but you had an easy day, it wouldn't really bother you as much. If you just had a tough day, but they were being nice to you, it still wouldn't bother you that much. I think it is a mixture of it all blended into one that just makes it so tough.
So obviously when you went through your training, what is the specific role that you were trained for as a Royal Marine Commando?
As a general duties Royal Marine, it's to go out and fight the enemy, basically. To go to the front line, go in first, be the first one there, do your job and get out and wherever the country sends you. What
specific role did you have?
When I deployed to Afghanistan, I was part of a unit called the Armoured Support Group. So out of training, I went straight up to a Fleet Protection Group, which look after like the nuclear subs, nuclear warheads and codes and stuff. And then I put in for a draft change because I wanted to go and do the job. And at the time, the Armoured Support Group, they drive like big armoured vehicles called Vikings. And they were doing like 3 months on, 3 months off in Afghanistan, and they were getting battered. So they were crying out for lads. So I was like, well, if I put that straight out of training, I'll get sent there. So I put in for it straight out of training. But then I started playing rugby for the Navy. So they kept me at Fleet Protection Group for 2 years so I could play rugby. And then at the end of my 2-year draft, I was like, oh, can I go general duties now? Which is the job every Royal Marine wants out of training. It's just doing the general duties of a Royal Marine. And they looked at my drafts and was like, well, no, you've put in for this, so you can go here. And I was like, oh, for God's sake. So, but don't get me wrong, I loved it, and it was a great opportunity. And to drive the Vikings in this country for training, we had to get our HGV license, so I managed to go and get that done, which obviously is handy to have on your license. And then deployed to Afghan in 2009 with the Armoured Support Group.
So with these Vikings, that's the first time I've ever actually heard of them. Just walk us through what it is like.
It's two cabs. So you've got the front cab, which has like the driver in it. We have a gun on top, and then the back cab's like a people carrier kind of thing. So the idea is if the lads get in trouble, we can go and get in between them and the trouble. We'll take on the fight. The lads can get in the bag and we can get them out. We can do supply runs. We can just go for scrap because we're in a big armoured vehicle. It was probably the most armoured vehicle we had in Afghanistan. It could go anywhere. It could swim, so we could put a skirt on it, and it could go through water and swim. It could go across any terrain whatsoever because it was a track vehicle. They were unbelievable vehicles.
Was it like a tailor-made vehicle? It wasn't just like a standard vehicle. It was kind of.
It was kind of like the old BV, but made more modern, more armoured. But yeah, they didn't get used properly.
And did you have like guns on it and all that sort of stuff?
Yeah, we had a GPMG on the front and smoke grenades, so like red phosphorus grenades on the front to pop smoke when you needed a shield.
So take me to that. So your first deployment was in 2009 in Afghanistan. What was the first mission that you went on?
We went straight out. I literally landed in Afghanistan, went straight down to a place called Nadi Ali, which we renamed IED Ali. And then, yeah, it was just going out on the ground, hearts and minds work, so going into the villages, making sure the locals were okay. Because this is the thing people don't seem to realise when they look at the Afghan war and think it was pointless. However, when we were there, we made a lot of good. Like, they got running water, we brought better education into schools and stuff. Even girls got education, medicine was improved. Like, the locals loved us being there. They were just too scared of the bad guys to want to help us, because it'd been in their life forever. Like, there's always been war in that part of the world, whether it be us there, the Russians there, whoever. It's always been a war-torn place, so they can never get on our side enough to trust us to be able to help them. So it was never, like, you need the locals on your side to be able to win that war, I think. But yeah, we went down there, and then the day I got blown up, we'd been to a place called Lashkargah, and we were just on our way back. We'd done a supply run up there to get some more supplies, and we were on the way back to Nadi Ali from Lashkargah when my vehicle went over an IED.
So that was obviously the fateful day for the rest of your life. Like, walk us through what actually happened, like, step by step, and what you remember about it.
I remember quite a lot of it, to be honest. We were just driving down, and we weren't expecting any trouble whatsoever. It was just a normal run. Tracks we've been down loads of times, and that's probably the problem, because, like, if you set patterns, they kind of know. But, like, we weren't allowed to go through the farmers' fields because they didn't want to upset the farmers, stuff like that. So we had to stick to the tracks. So if they're going to plant an ID, where they're going to plant it on the track. So we were just driving down this track. I was the middle vehicle. The front vehicle had gone over the IED. But from what I believe, it had been planted in some sand, which was a bit deeper, and they'd left loose sand on the top. So as the first vehicle goes over, it compressed the sand. Second vehicle compresses it a bit more. By the time my vehicle hit it, there was enough weight on the pressure pad to set the IED off. So yeah, they broke up the convoy as well. At night time, we black out all the windows, and we have like a little screen at the front, and it's like an infrared camera on the front, and we drive by the screen. It's like driving a computer game, really. And you just keep your tracks. You can see the tracks of the vehicle in front. You just keep the lines on your screen in them track lines, and you just follow the vehicle in front, driving by a screen. And we went over the IED. The screen lit up a really bright light, and next thing I knew, I went straight through the armoured door, and the vehicle moved 10 foot, and the whole of the bomb caused I was in that.
Right. So were you the only one injured in that?
No, there was two of us. There was we had a unit called QRH, Queens Royal Hussars, and they were attached to us. And the lad on top cover at the time, he was a QRH lad. He got ejected through the roof because half his body's already out anyway. So he went with the explosion. He broke a bit of his back and broke his foot. Right. I think majority of his injuries came from landing, because obviously he'd been popped up in the air.
So when obviously that blast came in, what did you remember the blast, or did you wake up a few seconds later, or like what? I
remember the bright light, and then the next thing I know, I was looking up at the vehicle, and like I was in a lot of pieces, and my ears were just ringing like mad. I looked to get my morphine so I could give myself morphine, and then it felt like probably about 3 weeks before the lads got to me. It was probably only about 20 minutes, but what they have to do when an IED goes off, we had to clear the area around it to make sure there's no secondary devices, because what they'd usually do is put a vehicle-borne IED in the ground, so if somebody steps on that one, it won't set it off because they're not heavy enough. But the vehicle gets blown up, and then they put anti-personnel IEDs around it, because they know then if they've blown someone up, they want to get to that person, and there's secondary devices, so they have to clear the area. Then they got to me. Two good friends of mine got to me, and like one of the lads I've been through training with as well. We've been on holiday to Tenerife with, and he was one of the first people to me. He's a local lad, Southport lad. Can't mention his name because of his nature of his work at the minute, but yeah, them two, literally, if it weren't for them, I wouldn't be here now.
Yeah. What was the actual injury there, and then did the leg fully come off? Or
No, I kept my leg for a year, so I'd smashed my right heel bone to bits, and there was a big hole in my heel. I broke both bones in my lower right leg and lost about 5 centimetres of my weight-bearing bone. Dislocated both my knees, and my left knee had come completely detached, and there was a hole inside of my knee, and my tib and fib was sticking through that. I broke my left femur, broke my hip and dislocated it, broke my back, ruptured my spleen, and broke my collarbone, and I had a cut on my chin.
Oh.
And then they had me back in the UK within 24 hours, and I died twice on the flight home.
Jesus.
And they had to revive me. And then when I landed in the UK, they put me straight into an induced coma for about 3 or 4 weeks.
And then talk to me about, obviously, when you came out of the coma, like, what was the first thoughts? Did you even remember what had happened at first, or did it take time for it to come back to
like,
you?
it's crazy. Like, you wake up, it's a bit of confusion at first, because obviously the last thing I remember was like drifting off in a helicopter, and that was on my way back to Camp Bastion. And then when I got to Camp Bastion, they did a few operations on me pretty quickly, and I was back in the UK within 24 hours. But then, yeah, you wake up there and your family is stood around your bed and stuff, and you're looking up thinking like, oh, I'm in Afghanistan, what are these guys doing here? And then it kicks in and everybody tells you where you are and the extent of your injuries and stuff. And at the time, you don't really, it sounds daft, but you don't really care as much.
What do you mean?
Because you're just in so much pain, but you're on so many drugs as well. So when you come round, it's just, you want to get rid of the confusion more than anything first.
Right.
And it's lying there knowing you're not too bothered about what's to come at that time. It's more, you've just got to deal with what's right now, and that's a lot of drugs and a lot of pain.
What would you say was worse then, like the physical pain of it, or the, like, obviously at some point it will have set in the reality of what happened. At that point where it's kind of set in and you've like got past the drugs and got past the pain, what was worse, the actual pain in the first place, or the psychological pain of going forward, of like, you know, that I've lost my leg here?
I'd say the physical pain at first, and it sounds really daft. I've had this conversation a few times recently, and obviously with delivering my talks, it's come rather apparent to me. It's the mental side of things didn't hit me or affect me until I got the medical discharge letter. Up until that point, I was still a Royal Marine, and I was still going back. There's articles of me in the local newspapers saying I'm going to go back to the front line, I want to go and fight with the lads. I'm still a Royal Marine, I'm still going to do my job, kind of thing. And then obviously I kept my leg for a year. They thought initially I was going to lose my left leg above the knee, because my knee was that badly smashed. I mean, like I said, my kneecap was upside down and completely detached. But they managed to, out of the 4 ligaments in your left knee, they managed to save my PCL, which isn't the best of ligaments, but it was a ligament. It was better than none, so they managed to save that and save my knee. Obviously, I broke my back, so I was in a body brace for a few months. So yeah, the physical pain at first was just dreadful, but we were in Selly Oak Hospital, and the lad in the bed next to me had lost both his legs. There was a lad, when I got up to the ward, just before I got out of intensive care and went on the ward, one of the Royal Marines from the ward came down, and I'd never met him before. He was just another bootneck from another unit, and he comes to see me and he was like, look mate, I try to come and say hello and just give you a bit of encouragement. When you get upstairs, it sounds daft, but it's a lot better. Like, once you get off intensive care, you get your TV, you get welfare come in and see you. Like, we get pizza once a week and stuff like that, but you're around all the lads as well, and we have a bit more banter. He said, so when you get up there, it'll be all right. And then when I got upstairs, that gave me a little bit of hope. So when I finally got upstairs to the ward, I was like, right, I need to do the same thing. So I went back down to intensive care, and I saw a lad who lost both his legs, one above the knee, one below the knee. He was a young lad called Greg Stevenson, and we're still friends to this day. He's only from Burnley way, and he's just won gold in the Paralympics at rowing as well last year. The lad's a legend, but I went down and saw him, and when you see lads like that, and then I look at my body and I'm like, all right, yeah, I'm a mess, but I've still got 2 legs at that point, and he's not. So I'm like, it's not actually that bad, this, is it? And then obviously a year later, they'd done, I think I'd had about 5 or 6 operations on my right leg to try and save it. And then the doctors basically just turned around and said, look, we've got it as good as we can get it. There's nothing more we can do now. You either stay as you are for the rest of your life, or your only other option is amputation. But at the time, I was walking bits, but I was off my head on tramadol. If I weren't walking, I was on crutches or still in a wheelchair at times. I was just in agony all the time. I was like, this isn't a life. And the lads like Steve, who I'd seen lose both legs, and there was lads who got blown up way after me, like a good year down the line, and lost the leg immediately. And they're out running and stuff and doing all these adventurous stuff. And I'm stuck with a dead weight on the end of my leg. So as soon as they offered it me, I didn't even go away and think about it. I just sat there, and he said, like, your other option's amputation. I was like, right, let's do it then. Let's go, let's get it off. So I had my leg off in, I think it was November, December time, 2010. And then, yeah, that was kind of a relief as well. More for the fact that, because obviously I'd been telling everybody I'm still going to be a Royal Marine, I'm still going back to the front line. When I had this dead weight on my leg that weren't working, I was like, get that off. and give me something that works, I've got more chance. I'm going to be this Royal Marine again. And I think part of that's a bit of denial in the back of your head. Like, I didn't want to believe that I weren't, because it's all unknown really. I joined at like 17, 18 years old when I joined the Marines, and I'm now like in my early 20s, and I'm like, I've still got 22 years I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is my life, this is all I knew, this is all I wanted at the time, and now I'm not going to be able to do it. And I think when that letter came through the door that just said you are no longer medically fit to be a Royal Marine Commando, that's probably the mental side of it that killed me most.
Would you say that was the lowest point of the whole process?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. Bones fix, you can get a metal leg put on. Nobody was taking that letter back. There was no way I was getting that job back. There was no way I was getting that life back. I don't like. Then it was horrible. Now it was a blessing. Obviously, like, my life's turned out massively different than what I ever thought it would, and probably for the best.
Yeah.
And I've used everything that came from, but at that point in time, yeah, that was the toughest point.
How long was it, like, from deployment to you losing your leg? How long was it?
From deployment, well, I think I got blown up in February 2009, and I lost my leg December 2010. So almost just shy of 2 years.
What kind of things did you see over there? What were some of the other horrific things that you saw over there?
I think just watching, like, other people get injured, seeing that what happens in the local villages, it's not a nice place. But yeah, I try not to dwell on that side of things too much, because it's the way that, like, some of the ways and means of what they do over there, that's the way their life has been all. So who am I to judge or interfere on that, just because I don't think it's right, and 90% of the population probably don't think it's right. But you're out there to do a job, you get your job done, and you hopefully come home. But I think that the toughest bit I got from the whole experience, other than obviously getting blown up and losing a leg, or losing my job, was one of the lads who saved my life was a guy called Rob Richards, and he got blown up, and I believe it was about 100 metres on the same track as I was blown up on, about 2 months after me. And yeah, he didn't make it. He made it back to the UK, but yeah, he died because of his injuries, and it's been tough because he died on the 27th of May, and a few years after that'd have been 2009, so 6 years later, on the exact same day, my little boy was born.
Right.
But my boy, he weren't due to be born on that day either, and he held on, and it was like, it's kind of like he'd made room for him, kind of thing. So yeah, that was probably
it's a strange story in terms of, like, he saved someone who's gone through something that's then killed him as well.
Yeah, and that's the scary thing, and that was one of the toughest things. Like, when you're lying in pieces in this country, and he saved my life, but I couldn't do the same thing for him. And that's tough.
How do you, like, sort of, that's something that I've always talked to, when I've talked to vets, they always have that sort of guilt that, you know, especially
guilt.
Yeah, the survivor guilt. Like, how do you sort of tackle that?
I don't think you ever do, really. I think it's always there at the back of your mind in a sense. But then you also you honour the lads that they were there to do a job just as you were. You know, you'd do the exact same thing if you were in their position, and it's what we were trained to do. And he's lost his life doing what he loved. He was a Royal Marine through and through. He was loved by everybody in the Corps. But yeah, it's like I say, I've got that little boy now to look at and think, like, it's all for a reason, isn't it?
So obviously, when you came out of the army, what was next for you? Once you realised that you were medically discharged, what did you then?
That was probably the toughest point. I went down a bit of a dark path, but it was probably before I got discharged, to be honest, because we spent like 3 weeks in Headley Court where we'd do our rehab, and then you'd be home for like 5, 6, 7 weeks, 8 weeks sometimes, because there was that many injured lads that when I first got injured, it was like 3 weeks on, a week off, and you'd be hammering it. But then the more injured lads there were, your time off got longer and your time in there got shorter. And then towards the end, like, I didn't need rehab anymore. I just had to go back for the odd prosthetic appointment. So I was spending my life as a civvy at that point. I knew I was getting discharged, but I had a discharge date. And up until that point, I was pretty much living at home, and that was probably the darkest points because I was out drinking every day, pretty much waiting for the pub to open. Got in with not the wrong crowd; they were good people, but just weren't good for me. I was getting in trouble at weekends in the pub and stuff like that. And then I met my now wife, and just one night it kicked off in the pub, and I was trying to help my mate, and just saw her leave out the corner of my eye, and I was like, just walked away from this scrap completely. I was like, I've got to go. Ran after her, and she just turned around to me. She's like, look, that's not the kind of life I'm interested in, kind of thing. And at that point, I saw what my future could be and what I could be losing. And I look back at that and be like, this isn't the future I want. This is the future I want. So I got in that taxi with her and drove away. And at that point, I knew I had to change my life for the better and get out of that dark place and start realising, like, look, we've still got a future. You might not be a Royal Marine anymore, but you've got a future. And let's go and make the most of that future.
What were them few steps that you then took after that realisation and that turning point?
I think that's where, like, my business now is called the Reborn Mindset, and I think that was probably the initial where it came to fruition, because that's where I first put it into practice on myself. And every letter of reborn means something, so it's not just the fact that I died and I was reborn kind of thing. It's the 6 pillars of reborn, and it starts with the R, which is recognise reality. And at that point, that's where this came from, because it was like I had to recognise, look, I'm in a bad place at the minute. I'm not helping myself. I'm using this to mask. 'Cause everybody thought I was okay and I was fine, but like I go in the pub, get smashed, go home, eat a takeaway, and be sat on my own and be like, do you know what? This isn't. I'm not happy, kind of thing. But I had to start realising that, and that's that pivoting point. I've always said, like, I love my wife to bits, but I'd never say she saved me, but she made me want to save myself. So that was the moment where I'd sit down and I'd be like, do you know what? You need to recognise where you're at. You need to have that on it. It's all right lying to everybody else, making them think you're okay, but you need to be honest with yourself now and decide where you want to be and what you want to be. So that was that recognise reality, and then you move on to embrace change, which is making them little changes. So for me, first it was let's get fit again. Like, when you start training, you get in the gym, you feel better anyway. You stop eating crap as much, you start eating better because you're putting the hard work in the gym, so you want to eat better. And then on top of that, you're not wanting to go out drinking and stuff because you want to get back in the gym. You get that bug for it, and that becomes your new drug kind of thing, and you want to push yourself. So just making that little change of getting into exercise, getting out walking. I mean, when I met my wife, she had a dog, a staffy called Alfie. He became my best mate straight away. He became my dog, not hers, and it kills her to this day. But she'd drop him off at her mum and dad's when she went to work in the morning, and I'd go and pick him up and take him up to, like, Rivington and stuff like that, and take him out walking, so getting out in the fresh air and stuff. Just them little changes on a daily, where you're actually putting one foot in front of the other and getting away from the bit you don't want to be.
It just gives you that momentum.
Yeah, massively. And then just things started compounding for it. It's the same both ways, and I found this massively. Like, when I was going out drinking, that then led to, like, fighting more. It ended up eating bad. It ended up, like, shoving shit up my nose and stuff like that, which I didn't really want to be doing. But when you stop that, the gym's the same thing. Once you start eating better, that then goes on. Once you start training, it goes on to eating better, which then makes you start being more proactive and wanting to look at the next thing. So both sides, you can snowball either way, and it just compounds and compounds and compounds.
That's exactly it. It's the compound effect, the negative and positive compounding effect.
Massively. And I, with my talks, I have a thing called the adversity equation. So the adversity equation is basically adversity plus response equals outcome. So adversity isn't anything you can control. It's just something that happens in your life. The outcome you can't control, the response you can, which then allows you to control the outcome. So if you have something adversity in your life and you respond positive, and I have this conversation, I had the same conversation with my little boy the other day. He was doing his spellings, and it was his first night. He'd not done these words before, and he was doing one and he got it wrong, and he crossed it out and he did it again, and he got it wrong, crossed it out, did it again, but each time he spelt it different. And then finally, like, 6th attempt, he got it right. And he was getting really angry with himself. He started getting a bit upset about it, and I was like, what's wrong, mate? And he was like, well, I got it wrong, haven't I? I was like, no, you've not, you've got it right there. And he was like, yeah, but I got it wrong first. And I was like, yeah, but you learn from it, and eventually you've got it right. So if you've took that lesson, that's a positive, and in the end your outcome's been positive. So your adversity is not knowing the word, having this tough word that you've got to spell. your response is, right, we've got it wrong, let's try again, let's learn. Eventually, you've got that positive outcome because you've positively developed each time. If you got it wrong first time and gone, I've got it wrong, and give up, your outcome's negative because you've give up and you've not got the word right, and now you don't know how to spell it. Yeah. But you've carried on and you've learnt a lesson each time, so your outcome becomes positive. And it's the same, like, that's in simple format for a 10-year-old to understand stuff. For adults, it's a massive thing, and everything I've done since and everything has all come from that initial point of recognising where I was at. I weren't happy, make them little changes, and that's compounded into then being able to go on and achieve some pretty crazy things over the years.
Just constantly focus on changing the response until you get it right.
Yeah, definitely.
That's interesting. What was the rest of the acronym?
Oh, so you've got... Sorry,
no, you're right.
I kind of left you in limbo there. So you've got recognise reality, embrace change, build resilience, own your mindset, reignite your purpose, and then never quit.
Right.
And the probably three that I like. Build resilience and own mindset go hand in hand, because resilience, everybody builds resilience. That's the getting knocked down and getting back up again. Get knocked down, get back up again. And embracing change is going to naturally build resilience, because when you change something, you're not going to get it right. Like the spellings, you're not going to get it right every time. You're going to have to. And each time you get it wrong, but you bounce back, that's building your resilience. But then owning your mindset, just teaching yourself, like, now we get up, and changing it from why me to what next. And when my little boy teaches me so much as I do him, because in his situations and his scenarios, they're so simple at such a young age, but it's the same throughout life.
Same principle.
Yeah, it just brings it into more of a... And I saying to him the other day, and he was like, well, what if this happens? And what if this happens? I'm like, what if it doesn't? What if it doesn't? And every time you can look at that what if either way, positive or negative again. What if this bad happens? What if it doesn't? What if you're successful? What if this is really good? Like, go skydiving, jump out of a plane. What if I love this? But most people look at it and go, well, I could die. What if that happened? Well, what if it doesn't? And you miss out on so much living on the what if on the negative side. But if you start looking at the what if with the positive side, your life becomes so much more exciting.
That is so true. I remember something that always stuck with me. I remember seeing it. It said that 90% of the things that you think about don't happen. And the things that do, you can choose whether that's going to be positive, and that's like the what if thing of, like, you know, is it going to be a positive thing or is it going to be a negative thing? So yeah, I've definitely had that same experience. So once you obviously embraced that process of, you know, working on your sort of business strategy for yourself before you then rolled it out to other people, what kind of opportunities then came? What was next for you after that?
Well, that's the thing, like, Reborn actually only got launched last August-ish time. So that's been in the back of my mind on paper for years. I've just never known what to do with it till now. But also, I wasn't in the right place to do it then. I had other things that I'd started playing golf through a charity called the On Course Foundation that got injured servicemen using golf as rehabilitation, which was brilliant because it helped me at that point, because obviously I'd lost my leg, I'd lost my identity as a Royal Marine. So then I've come out, I'm like, I've got this prosthetic leg, I'm disabled kind of thing. But then you get into the game of golf, which, because of the handicap system in golf, doesn't matter your ability, your disability, whatever, everybody's equal because of the handicap system. So that then allowed me to play a sport where I didn't look at myself as disabled anymore. I'm like, I'm back fully competitive, and I managed to get my handicap right down to scratch, and went and did the PGA professional degree.
Had you ever done golf
I
before?
played a little bit as a kid, nothing drastic, like little par threes. And
how long did it take you to go from just starting golf to getting a handicap of scratch?
I think it was about 2-3 years. But like, I've got that.
That's quick,
I joke
isn't
with
it?
this.
That's quick though, isn't it?
Yeah, like me and my wife have been talking. She says I've not got ADHD. I'm the definition of ADHD. And I think once I go into something like that, I've got to be the best at it.
Yeah.
And I was training daily. I was playing as much as I could, and I had a lot of time on my hands, to be fair. So I was spending a lot of my life at the golf course. I was going on different trips with the On Course Foundation and stuff, and I got some really good coaching with that. And then, yeah, just dedicating myself to it and managed to go and do it. But then I did that for, I think it was about 3.5 years, 4 years, and I just got to a point where I just wasn't happy again. And I vow once I started sorting my life out and stuff, I always vowed to myself I'm always going to be happy doing what I do.
Yeah. Do you think that like the golf was a bit of a crutch to just get you through that period of life?
Yeah, possibly. I think it helped the fact that when I first started doing it as well, a lot of people started reaching out and saying, "Oh, you've motivated me to play sport and stuff like that." And don't get me wrong, I got some amazing experiences from it. I mean, I got to go up to the Scottish Open and play with Tommy Fleetwood. I got to go to America and meet Arnold Palmer. I played at Lake Nona with Justin Rose and stuff like that. I had some fantastic experiences from it. But yeah, I got to a point where I was just like, it's not for me. And I played in a PGA Northwest Championships at Bolton Old Links, and I've never played golf in such bad weather in all my life. It was one of them where we probably shouldn't have played. The greens were flooded and everything, but they needed this event playing that day. And I can remember standing on the 18th, and I was just looking at my last shot, and I was like, "What am I doing?" And I was sponsored by Strixon and Adidas at the time.
Right, okay.
And I just walked away. And that's when, and this is the thing with the rebound mindset that I've brought out now, is because you don't have to go through something as drastic as getting blown up. It could be you're just having a bad time at the minute, you've just lost your job, or you're not happy in your job or something. And at that point, I knew I had to be reborn again, because I was not happy, and I was stood there and I was like, right, I need to recognise my reality. Like, where am I at? What am I doing? Why am I doing it? What's my reasons for it? If my reason's not strong enough, then we need to then embrace change and move forward.
Yeah.
We've built resilience before. We know we can do this. We know we can get through it. I've got that mindset of, instead of why me, what's next? Yeah. And then one of the biggest letters for me is reignite your purpose. And there's a book, Man's Search for Meaning, and he says in that, anybody with a strong enough why will overcome any how.
Yeah, Friedrich Nietzsche.
Yeah, and I was like, if you've got a good enough purpose to do anything, you won't quit. Which leads you on to the never quit. So at that point, my purpose wasn't strong enough anymore. Yeah. So I needed to go back to the start, go through them stages, and move on. And it took a while. Like, I did a few things. I did close protection for a while. I went working at a charity that does indoor high ropes and stuff, and then that's when I kind of fell into the skydiving. Yeah,
because that reminds me. Have you ever heard of the Regent Beta paradox? No. So the Regent Beta paradox states that something has to be worse than it already is for it to change. So if you're a job, for example, and the job's okay, it kind of pays okay, and it's kind of around the corner, or like it's convenient, but you don't like it, you'll stay in that job because of the convenience, or because of the money's not too bad, or whatever. But the Regent Beta paradox basically states that if it was worse than it was right now, it would actually be better for you in the long run, because it'd force you to change. Yeah. So people will, they'll stay in the job, or they'll stay with the girlfriend, or they'll stay in different scenarios that they're not happy with. But if that situation was actually well worse, they would be better off, because it would force them to change. Sense. And that kind of, it's the same thing as like the Man's Search for Meaning. He talks about, not necessarily the Regent Beta paradox, but he talks about that all the time. Of like, the worst case scenario is the best case scenario sometimes, because it forces you to take that action.
And like I say, going back to that night when I watched my now wife leave the pub, and that was that point where I was like, if I'd not made that decision that night, then now I wouldn't have a beautiful wife and an amazing little man. So that, again, I was in that severe situation, put me in a better place in the long run. And that's where the recognise your reality comes from. And I do talks in prisons now and stuff, and I was speaking to one prisoner in Lincoln before Christmas, and his story was pretty much identical to mine, apart from he didn't get blown up. He got injured in the Marine. He was a Royal Marine, got injured, got medically discharged on hearing, and he went down the same path as I did, but he didn't get that pivotal moment where he changed. He just carried on going further, and then ended up inside. Right. And we were just sat there talking, and he when he opened up on, I think it was the second day of the course, and he just said like, and he shared my name, and I was like, wow, it's crazy how like I could be where you are, but you could be where I am, kind of thing. And it is that recognising your reality at some point, you having that honest, what I like to call the mirror conversation, is sitting down, having a look at yourself in the mirror, and having that. It's the hardest, toughest conversation you'll ever have. It's easy to kid other people and lie, but when you're looking straight in your own face, you know you're lying. So it is the tough, but the conversations you've got to have, and that's what what helps you start making the change and coming out stronger. So
there's a quote that comes to mind, and I can't remember who said it, but it said the first step to solving any problem is recognizing that there is one.
Yeah.
So like, and that's like a major thing that I always try and use that quote. Not that I'm like giving people advice all the time, but when anytime like, you know, people are talking to me about what they want to change in their life, whether it's like the diet, the lifestyle, whatever, the job, then I'll always just say that to them. Like, you know, like if you can't recognize that there is a problem, like, you know, where the problems are, you're not going to solve the problem. If you just say, okay, I want to get better, but then I'm eating takeout and I'm not recognizing that the takeout's the problem, then like you can't really, like you said before, you can't. You said about your wife, how it was an interesting comment. You basically said that she made you want to change.
Yeah.
And that's an important distinguishment, because people think that, oh, well, you know, it takes my son for me to change, or it takes my wife for me to change. You can have all these things in place, but at the end of the day, it's like a choice that you have to make. They can be like a catalyst to it and help you along the way, but it's like a choice. And I think a lot of people skirt that fact, definitely.
Yeah, definitely. And I say it to the guys in prison mainly. Like, I go into businesses, I talk keynotes, I'll talk anywhere to anybody, but the prison one, it's the most, because I always say to them, at the end of the day, no one's coming to save you. It's on you. And it's the old saying, like, you point a finger, there's always three pointing back kind of thing. And I firmly believe it. And it is, no one's ever coming to, and nobody in my life has ever come to save me. They've just made me, like I say with my wife, she made me want to save myself. But it's on me to do it. No one else. Nobody else can do it for you. And I think it comes, like, you look at things like Alcoholics Anonymous, they're the same. The first step to solving the problem is admitting there is a problem. It's the same thing again. With their 12 steps and stuff, and it works throughout life, but it's the key. And like I say, I've my reborn mindset now, I've lived the experience of it through. I've probably lived more lives than most. So yeah.
So you obviously mentioned that you went into the skydiving part. So like, how did that opportunity come about, and what did it entail?
It was an accident. I'd come across, I was doing close protection work at the time, and I'd come across the advert on LinkedIn, and I didn't know that I'd saved my CV on LinkedIn. I'd seen this skydiving advert, and I was on a night shift, and I was like, oh, that looks cool, and I pressed on it, but I didn't realise I pressed send, and it had sent my CV as an application to the guy, and he phoned me a couple of days later, and he was like, look, no amputee's ever been an indoor skydiving instructor, and the bosses are telling me it'd be a stupid risk to take. He said, but I'd like to meet you. And I was like, right, no problem. So I went down to iFly in Manchester, sat down with...
Is that the one near...
The ski slope.
Ski slope, yeah.
Sat down with the boss, and he was like, look, you've got to walk on this really thin wire net. We've got to have wind strong enough to make somebody the size of me fly, and you've got to be able to walk around in that and control a person. It's hard on two legs. He said nobody's ever done it on one, like with a prosthetic. And I was like, well, let's try it. So he got one of their top instructors to take me in the tunnel. We just did a little bit of walking about, and we come out, and the instructor was like, I think you can do this, you know. So he sent me down to Basingstoke to do the 4-week course. And yeah, I smashed the course and come home and became the first amputee in the world to do it. So I did that for a year. And then I fell off a mountain bike and ripped a muscle off my bone on my residual limb. And basically I couldn't, for insurance purposes and health and safety, I weren't allowed in the tunnel until I got my leg fixed. And that was it's COVID-ish time.
Yeah, right.
Just towards the end of COVID. And to this day I've still not had it fixed. So I'm technically not allowed in the tunnel to instruct, but I'd moved on by that point. I just, once they'd said that, I was like, right, I'd been through the reborn process that many times. By that point I was like, right, this is that point now, let's go at it again. And I just started playing physical disabled rugby league for Wigan Warriors. So I was playing physical disabled rugby league with this muscle hanging off, so I was like, I'm coping, so we'll just carry on. And then the first actual game that we played was against St Helens, and I lasted 3 minutes. And that PCL that I said they saved, yeah, I tore that completely. So then I had no ligaments in my knee. So then it was a toss-up. Do I get my knee fixed or do I get my stump fixed? I played rugby with my stump the way it was, so I was like, that can manage. So I went to the doctors. I'm too young to get a full new knee. So they just basically said, look, looking at what they'd done initially to save my knee, he said, I can't tell you what surgery they've done because it doesn't look like, where you've got pins and stuff, it doesn't look like any operation would do. He said, but with how bad your knee was when you got blown up, they've obviously done whatever they can to save your leg. He said, so looking at that, the only thing I can really do is give you an ACL. And at that point, I was like, well, I've done all this with a PCL. Give me an ACL. I'm unstoppable. Yeah. So I had that fixed. And then I was just rehabbing my knee. I got into driving trucks because I got that HGV license from the Marines. And it allowed me to get my knee fixed and better before I decided what to do next. And before I got a chance to go through the reborn process again and find out what's next, I got whisked into intensive care again, almost dead again.
What was that from you had a pulmonary
embolism, yeah. Last January. I'd gone to hospital with nerve pain in my stump, and they didn't bother doing any scans or anything. They just turned around and said, oh, it sounds like sciatica, take these pills, you'll be alright. So I went away, I was popping these pills, and a week later I just hit the deck. Couldn't breathe, and I'd just come out. I'd gone to meet my mate at the pub, and I bought a pint of Guinness. I'd had one sip, and I was like, I'm going to have to go home. I don't feel right. He was like, oh, let me get my daughter, come and I'll give you a lift home. I was like, no, I'll be fine. I only live like a 2-minute walk. And I walked out the front of the pub, and my mate's a paramedic, so he followed me, and I didn't know he'd followed me. And yeah, I just hit the deck outside, ended up sat. They've got like a little wooden picket fence that I ended up sat on. He then got his daughter, but he knew I'd been in hospital and they said it was sciatica, so he presumed that they'd have scanned me and there was nothing there. So he was like, you must be developing asthma or something because you can't breathe. So he got me home, and I managed to get my breath back, and I was okay. I went to bed, and he said to me, he was like, give me a ring in the morning. 7 o'clock my phone went, and it was him, and he was like, you alright? And I was like, yeah mate. He was like, phone an ambulance now. So we phoned an ambulance, they came out, they hooked me up to the machines, and your blood oxygen level that should sit at a minimum of 95%, mine was at 60, which I should have been dead at that point, to be fair. So they rushed me into intensive care. About 10 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, they brought my wife and little boy in, which I found out later was because they didn't think I was going to make the morning, so they wanted me to see my family before I went to sleep. But I woke up the next day, the doctors were baffled. My oxygen levels had got back up to like 75, 80 by this point, so I was on a high flow intensity oxygen. Stayed on that for, I think it was 2 days. Then they moved me to another part of intensive care, kept me on oxygen there for a little bit longer, and then moved me up to the ward. I think I only spent 5 or 6 days in hospital, and then got discharged with blood thinners, and spent, I think it was 6 months on blood thinners, and as soon as they give me the opportunity to get off them, I just knocked them into touch, and I think I've had 2 fully functioning lungs since about October last year. It's probably about, 4 or 5 months now.
So you made a full recovery after all that?
So far, well, I'm still not 100%. Obviously, my lungs have been battered. There's still a bit of scar tissue there, but there's no clot there anymore. So it's just building my lungs up again. And obviously, in that time, I've gone on to do the filming on Channel 4's Hunted and be a hunter chasing people around the country. And now I've decided I'm going to go and cycle across America with 2 lungs that have only just started working again. Yeah.
So this is an interesting one because obviously I've always heard about Hunted, but I don't know anything about it. And I thought, I'll do a bit of research, but I thought, do you know what? I'll just leave it. I'll just ask him exactly what is Hunted for a start, and how did you get that opportunity, and then what was your role in it?
It's a program on Channel 4. It's basically you get an X amount of contestants. They have a celebrity version and a civilian version. And I say X amount of contestants because they're different for each series. But it's basically like 7 pairs of fugitives go on the run. So they start at a certain location that we don't know. They get dropped off. Obviously, it's in like a big place that'll have loads of CCTV, so it highlights as to where they start. They'll all disperse over the country, and they've got to try and stay on the run for 21 days. If they don't get caught in that 21 days and make it to an extraction point, they win a share of 100 grand. However, they have got us ground hunters chasing them down, which majority are either ex-military or police. And then we've got a headquarters as well that have all the powers of the state, so like CCTV, all that kind of thing, credit card tapping and stuff like that. So it's all emulated. It's not actual powers of state. So if you see a CCTV camera, it's not like it's a GoPro that's filmed it kind of thing. Okay, right. But there's what a lot of people don't realise is there's a rules official to the game. So any CCTV, the fugitives will have a follow team. They'll get the CCTV footage and give it to the rules official. We then have to physically know that they're there, go and see there's a camera, then request the footage. We don't just get given it.
Yeah.
But obviously, if it was like the police ain't gonna get CCTV footage like instantly like we would once we ask for it. They have to go through a process. It'll take a while for them to get it. Obviously, we've got 21 days to catch these people. It's a TV show. If we had to wait the length of time that the police have to wait, it'd make really crap telly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is quite an exciting experience because it's pretty legit, and it's frustrating for us when you're close to catching somebody and they've got away, or it's exciting when we catch people as well. So it is like some people doubt it when they're watching it on TV going, oh, it's just a game show, they're told where they are kind of thing. It's not, it is genuinely
genuine, yeah.
And for us being like ex-Royal Marine, I want to catch them, I want them done. But yeah, it's good fun, and I came by that again pretty much by accident. Like I said, I got out of hospital after my blood clot, and then I lost my dad in April to cancer, and it was the day after my dad's funeral that I got a message on Instagram, but it got in my requests. And normally when I get a message, it's normally spam, so I normally just delete them all. And don't know what it was, I just saw this one message, and it was a picture of a young girl and a message, whereas normally you get like 20 people in these requests. It was just one person, and they looked pretty normal on the picture, so I was like, I just clicked on it, and it was a researcher from Channel 4 saying, we'd love to talk to you about coming on the Channel 4 show Hunted. And at that point, I knew the premise of the show, but I never watched it. So I said to my wife, I was like, oh, look at this. Like, I'm ready for that new thing now. I've just come over this blood clot. I've got to a point where I'm like, right, I need to start pushing my life forward again. So I was like, it's like a sign. This is meant to be. So I contacted this girl back, and I was like, look, yeah, I'm really interested. I did a bit of research what the show was, and I thought I could go on the run for 21 days. Like, so I had a call with her, and she was like, no, we want you to be one of the hunters, so we want you chasing them. So I was like, oh, that's even better, because then I get paid. I'm guaranteed income. So yeah, I did a casting call, and yeah, I got the role, and that was that, and straight on to telly.
What are some of the resources that the runners have? Like, do they have like a specific like amount of money that they can spend to?
We don't get
transport
told much for what they get and what they can't get and stuff like that, because obviously, like with our backgrounds, we'll start tapping into some of that and stuff. So I know they get given a card, and they have to withdraw money at some point, so it highlights they've used the card to make the game a bit more exciting. But other than that, yeah, we don't really get told much. It is very, very much that they're a team, we're a team, and
and that's it.
Yeah, you've just got to go and try and catch them. And
what are some of like the techniques that you used to like try and track these people down on Hunted?
Like I said, we've got the headquarters, so for us as ground hunters, we rely on them predominantly. We get a rough idea when we can start spotting patterns of movement and stuff like that. But we'll go to friends and family that the headquarters will have found on social media and stuff. So we'll then go and visit them and then start doing interrogation. So then our interrogation skills come through. We get a bit of info, and then we can give that back to HQ. But then you start seeing patterns of movement and stuff. So we'll start slowly making our way in them directions, and then HQ will be like, look, they've been spotted by this CCTV camera, get here. And then yeah, it's just very well coordinated event.
How many times did you actually do the show? Was it just
I've just done the two. I did the civilian version in June, and then the celebrity version in July, and the civilian one came out just before Christmas. We've not been given a date on the celeb one yet. I'm hoping it'll be soon, because that was an exciting
So
one.
obviously you won't be able to tell me what happened on the celebrity one, but
No.
on the civilian one, did you catch them?
One lad made it to the finish on his own, because they start in pairs.
Right.
And to be fair, the lad who made it to the finish, a lad called Shaq, we spent a lot of time on him, like interrogating family and friends and stuff like that. And yeah, I'm glad he was a good guy. And after talking to his family and friends, you were kind of like, he deserves this kind of thing. He needs a break in life. And his partner got caught on like the third day of the show.
Right.
So he spent the rest of the 21 days on his own. So when you're with somebody else, it's tough, but at least you've got each other.
Yeah.
He had to do it all on his own, pretty much.
How did the other person get caught, but not him?
Well, they were both, like, the hunters, it weren't my team, thankfully. But two of the hunters, they got them, and they just split. And one hunter went after one after the other.
Yeah.
They caught that one, and yeah, he managed to hide away in a pub that the hunters went in as well, which was really irritating, because They went
right
in and the locals looked after him and hid him away. And there's only so much. Like, we're not the police. We can't go start kicking doors in and stuff like that. So he got away, and then he had to spend the rest of the time on his Todd on the run.
So to catch them, do you have to actually get hands on them, or do you have to?
Yeah, you have to. You're not allowed to
like
rough them up or
them,
anything. You just get your hand on them and say your time on the run is over.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is fun. Like, it's like a big game of cat and mouse, really, or hide and seek.
Yeah. What was the best story that you got from the hunted? Like, where you might have been close to someone who got away, or what was the most thrilling experience of it?
I think the most exciting for me was on the celebrity one. I enjoyed that one a hell of a lot more because it's a lot more because it's for charity. It's a lot more tongue in cheek. We can have a bit more banter and stuff like that, and that suited my personality. I had to be reminded a lot that I've got a camera and a microphone on me 24/7. So I had to be. You can't just be that cheeky northern lad all the time.
Censored.
So you've got to be careful. But then on the celeb one, I got away with it a little bit more. So, but obviously I can't tell you that one yet.
Fair enough. I'll look forward to seeing it. I'm probably
watch the celeb one. It is good.
Definitely.
You should see my mug pop up a hell of a lot more in that one than you did in the civilian one, to be fair.
So I just want to go back. Obviously, once you left the military, I just want to hear from you personally. How were you treated after you left the military? Was that a good process or was it a bad process?
Shocking for me at first. I mean, like I say, I had that pivotal moment before, to sort my head out just before I actually hit my discharge date, because I was living as a civilian anyway. And I can remember being sat at home, and I got a phone call. And they basically just said, did you clean your room out last time you were down here? And I was like, yeah. And they was like, right, well, you don't need to come back then. And I hung up and I was like, I think I'm a civvy. And they're like, what do you mean you think you're a civvy? And I was like, well, I've just been told I don't have to go back. And that were it. My medal from Afghan got brought to me by one of my mates. I didn't get to go to a medal ceremony or anything like that. And then I didn't do any resettlement courses, nothing. I've literally everything I've done for myself or through the help of one of the good Royal Marine charities or Blessmer and stuff like that who I'm doing the bike ride for. But I think that probably didn't help with the mindset at the time, because obviously I still wanted to be a Royal Marine. They've kicked me out and then just turned the back on me kind of thing. But I think it was more for the fact that it was very early on in the Afghan war, and there were so many injured lads, and we were getting discharged and more injured lads were coming through, and they just didn't know what to do with us at first, because it was new. You need a good war to develop things like this. Like prosthetic care, that's come on leaps and bounds since Afghanistan, because they need more of it. So I believe they got a lot better, but there's just a few of us that slipped through the cracks a little bit. But don't get me wrong, I do not resent it. I do not blame them. I don't have any hard feelings towards it, purely off the fact that I did the job. I couldn't do the job anymore. You move on. If you're a chef and you were cutting carrots and you cut a bit of your finger off and you can't cook anymore, you don't expect the restaurant to look after you for the rest of your life, do you? So it's just relative.
But I do feel like they need to support you. I know what you're saying, the war at the time was relatively new, and obviously, but they knew people were going to get injured. Surely, once discharged, they can't just leave you, and there's a lack of support there completely.
No, I think it's a learning curve though. You can only know what to do when you've done it. And when I came out, I didn't even have a prosthetic centre. I didn't get referred to I just got home and I was like, I need to go prosthetics. What do I do?
Even that.
That's a dentist. I've not had a dentist since But this is the thing. When you're in the Marines, and this was the tough part of integrating into society. And I say integrate because everybody says, "How did you reintegrate?" But I was never integrated into society as an adult. I joined the Marines as a kid, so I'd never been an adult in this world. So I'm now being integrated for the first time. But before that, my bills are taken care of, my food's in the mess hall. You don't have to worry about anything. Your money that you're getting every month, your beer tokens, and then all of a sudden you've got a house because you got a little bit of compensation, and you go and buy a house, and then your compensation's gone, but now you have to pay council tax, and you get a letter through the door saying you need to pay this, and I'm like, what's this? I don't want to pay that. I'm not paying. And then again, I give her a lot of credit for everything, and very, very well deserved. But My wife again, when we first moved in together, she was like, so what are you paying for this bill? And I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I've just set my bills up and they're paid and whatever I've got left at the end of the month. So I'm back in the Marines. It's my beer tokens again. And I hadn't a clue what was coming in my bank, what was going out my bank. Like I said, I was a kid when I joined. And like when you go through training in the Royal Marines, they've got a Barclays bank on camp. On your first day of training, they say to you, like, if you sign up to Barclays and get an account with us, your pay will go in a day earlier. So you're like, all right, I'll do that, sign up. And that's the only financial advice I gained. So then when you come out and you're like, I've got all these bills now, and I'm like, I don't know. And then luckily she sat down and she was like, right, you need to sort your life out here. Yeah. You're an adult now, like, come on. So I had to learn to adult again, which they're the kind of things I wish. And I don't think that side of things has got any better. I was speaking to a guy at the gym the other day who's ex-army, and he lives on a boat now for the same reason. He got a council tax bill through, and he was like, no, screw that, I'm not paying that. So he bought himself a boat and lives on that now, and he don't pay council tax. So, but again, he was the same. He was in the paras, and he come out and he had the same issues. Yeah. Like, you're a young kid when you go in, you've never, like, you can iron for anybody. He's brilliant, but don't know about bills and stuff or how to manage your money, and especially for lads like myself who get injured, because they give you compensation. It's not much, don't get me wrong. After buying a house and maybe a car, like, there's not a lot left, but you've no idea how to manage that money either. Like, you're not that sensible. Like, I a couple of fast cars, and I'm like, let's go down pub, buy a few stupid cars, and before you know it, your compensation's gone. But if I'd had a bit of advice on, like, look, you're going to get this amount of money, this is what you need to start looking at, maybe invest it, maybe do this, but there's no support. And I spent my whole career in the Marines in my overdraft. Like, my overdraft was like 1,500 quid and my monthly wage was 1,500 quid. So basically every month my wage just paid off my overdraft and then just go back in it. Because it was just me going out with the lads, buying a few nice outfits and going on the lash all the time. So then when you come out and you're still a young kid, but they've give you a lump sum of money and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And before you know it, it's gone. And you're like, I just wish they helped young lads like that. And not just the lads who get compensation, but just anybody who comes out, like, especially if you go in as a young kid and you come out after, like, because I think the minimum term's 4 years. So you do your minimum 4 years, you come out and you're like, right, I'm still young here, like, what do I do? Like, that's what support I think needs putting in place more. It's
definitely a common trend. I've spoke to many vets now and people who've been in the army, and the exit process from the army is definitely something that needs work, because every person who I've spoke to has said the same thing of, like, lack of support, lack of, like, you know, funding, and not, like, lack of, like, just no, like, general direction of knowing where to go next. But then also a slightly more sinister side to it is, like, people don't really think that a lot of the time it's worth it. Like, I remember, I'm sure you watched the same interview. So there was a Good Morning Britain interview I think it was about 6 months ago. A guy called Alec Penstone, who was that 100-year-old World War II veteran. And I'm just going to share the quote with you and just get your idea on it and to see if you relate to it. But he said, the sacrifice wasn't worth the result that it is now. So after leaving the military, do you feel the same way, that the sacrifices you made over there and all of that work that you put in, do you feel that it was worth it for the state that the UK is in right now?
Not for the state of the country, but I'd do it again.
Why?
Because I'm a firm believer of everything happens for a reason. And I brought them along today. I've got that beautiful family sat over there, and I wouldn't be where I am now if it weren't for what happened to me. So the sacrifice I made then was for the greater good of myself. Looking at it now, at the time I was proud of my country and I was proud to fight for it. I don't think I'd fight for the country anymore, but I'd fight for my brothers.
Yeah, that kind of leads into my next question, because I've got a stat here that I've said to a few people. So it says that patriotic intent is decreasing massively. In particular, within the Gen Z demographic, less than 11% of those aged 18 to 27 would take up to defend Britain right now. And it's the same thing as what I've just said then. It almost seems, when I talk to vets, like, they're proud of the service that they did, but right now the same point that you just made is they say, like, now I wouldn't have that same pride in going back there or going to war then. Why do you think that there's been such a shift in such a short space of time from 2009, when people were happy to go to Afghanistan and happy to fight the war, whereas now, you know, there's obviously talks about when and if World War III will happen, you've got 11% saying that they would go and defend the country?
I think generational wise, it's changed a lot. I think the way we were brought up, the life we grew up with, and the younger generation now are leagues apart. But I think more for the fact that the country's worth fighting for. It is. It's the fact that when you do go and fight for it, and you come back and then they start witch hunting, you look at everything that's going on with the Northern Ireland now, and they can be held accountable for what they did out there, but the people you're fighting have been pardoned. But you've got the likes of Keir Starmer, who it's well known that he spent his career as a lawyer going after Northern Ireland vets, and he did it pro bono. So he weren't getting paid to do it, he did it as a hobby. And that's the person now that would be sending me to war, and he wants me to go and fight for him whilst he's still chasing after veterans that
people who did
have
fight.
done what he's now. So yeah, I think that's your biggest problem you've got. Like, don't get me wrong, I still think the country's worth fighting for, because I remember what it was, and I know it can be that. But you've also got a lot of people that, like when we went to Iraq, I never did Iraq, but I can remember stories of lads coming home, and I was in training and they were doing a parade through, I think it was through Exeter, and people were spitting on them and calling them bait because the way the press made the lads out to look. Like, I can remember when I was going through training, and even after training, if you were going home on leave, you couldn't go home in your kit. You had to get changed because you're a target. I think that's one of the good things Help for Heroes did for the world, for the military, was between them and the Sun, they made us into heroes rather than villains. And a lot of people then got behind us. Whereas now, I don't know whether that'd be the case, because you've got too many, I hate the word woke, but it's true. You've got too many people that want to fight for the other side, and you just be villainised then if you go and fight these days. You're not seen as a hero or fighting for your country anymore, you're just part of the problem. And I think that's, you go and do a job, and there's still a lot of pride, don't get me wrong. I see it every November the 11th. Like, we go to Remembrance every year, and I see it, like, the amount of people out there. We go to Chorley where I live, and this year last year when we went, it was bouncing down, dreadful weather, and it was heaving. It was packed. So people are still proud of what we do and what we did, long before me, what they did, the sacrifice. So there is a lot of people that, and I think the big problem you've got is it's a minority. But because that minority is in the press,
and they're vocal,
it seems a lot worse. Whereas I think if it did kick off and you did go and fight for your country, there'd be more people proud of you than there would be against you. But it's the ones that are against you that are vocal and get the most press.
What do you think that needs to happen? So obviously you said, like, you know, the UK has changed from one thing now, and now it's a completely different thing. What do you think needs to change, or what has changed that has made it go from one thing to what it is now? And how do we get back?
There's a saying, and I'll probably get it wrong, and it's, tough times create strong men create good times create weak men create bad times create strong men. And that is what's happening. And you look at it throughout history, it's the same thing. We've gone through a period of war, there's a gap because that war's been fought, we come back, the tough men have gone and done the tough jobs, made it comfortable for those that come after them. That comfortability then makes it easy, which then makes them soft, which then's going to create a tough time, which I believe we're starting to get into and go through, which is going to then start making tough people again, which then creates the good times. So
I think that's a perfectly well
I think that's
point.
the best way to look at it. I'm not the most political person. I believe there's a place for everybody in this world. I genuinely do. We should all be able to get along, but I genuinely think that's, you look at the timeline of history. If you go back to the Bible days, you had that one tough person went through a tough time to make a better time for everybody else. You have Northern Ireland, then there's a gap. You then have Iraq and Afghan, we've now got a gap. The World War, there was a gap. World War One, there was a gap. Then it plays out through history. So, and I think that's just where we're at now. We just need to develop them tough times to make tough people, and it's on. I think part of it is on us now. Like, I try and bring my little boy up to be a bit tougher and be able to still have that sense of pride and know what's right and what's wrong and what's worth fighting for, kind of thing. But yeah, I think that saying is the best saying to sum up where we're at.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with everything you just said. I think it's just from the outside in, like, I was always brought up to, you know, respect authority, to respect the military, and, you know, I'm a patriotic man by my belief system and the way I am. And I think that from what I've seen and from who I've talked to, like I said, when I've talked to vets, you know, the country goes through hard times, and like I said, we've been to war, and we've been in wars that we probably shouldn't have been in, etc., etc. And then the last 5 to 10 years has just really deflated the country in terms of, you know, like the immigrant crisis. We've got immigrants coming in, which I don't have an issue with if they're here to work and they're here to, you know, provide, you know, a better life for them, for their family, contribute to society, and actually make the UK what it is, like a better place. But at the point where I'm then seeing, like, you know, vets who are getting sort of pushed to the wayside for the sake of immigrants who are being put up in hotels, and I've talked to many vets about that, and they've all said the same thing of, like, been through the same process of, like you said, when they get discharged from the army, minimal support, minimal direction, minimal purpose in life. But then immigrants come over most often, sometimes even illegally, and they get prioritised over these people who have literally served for the country, lost limbs serving the country, changed their life serving the country. Do you see that as well, or?
Yeah, a little bit, but no. I'll go play devil's advocate here. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a big fan of illegal immigration. I'm a fan of immigration legally. The world's built on immigration. The UK is built on immigration. Like, all successful countries are, but when it's done legally and right, you want to come here for a better life. Don't come here and then bring the life that you had. Come here and work for that better life. I'm not going down the religion point of view there. You want to come and still follow your religion, feel free, but come contribute to society and take from society. If you want to take from society, you've got to put into it, and that's wherever you go, for whoever goes. But like I said, I talk in prisons a lot, and there's a heavy veteran population in prison, which really shocked me when I first started going in, and that's one reason why I keep doing it, because I want to try and help the most I can. I think there is an aspect of we don't get the support, we are getting overlooked, other people are getting given things that we're not, blah, blah, blah. But I will go back to what we said at the start of this. It's on you. Like, you can't just live for a handout. Like, don't get me wrong, you've worked hard, you've sacrificed for the country, you should be looked after better. But it's still on you at the end of the day. You've still got to make that change. You've still got to want to go. And there is help out there, but you've got to go and find it. And the young lad who you're speaking to in prison that went down the same path as me but carried on, and I came back, he said the same. He said, I knew there were people out there that could help me. I just didn't want to reach out for it. Yeah. So, yeah, to an extent, I agree with what you have to say. And I do think, like, you've given a lot for your country. You should be looked after to an extent. But you've got to want to work for it as well. Yeah, you have to. It's the same as them immigrants coming in. They want to take from society. They should give to society. I know we've already given to society because we've fought in the forces. But when you come out, you still want to contribute. You still got to make the effort. You've still got to want to give back as well. You can't just come out and be like, well, and especially now, like you say, we've not really done anything for the last few years. You come out and you just expect a handout. Like, it don't work like that. The same as the immigrants coming in. If they come and want to work, brilliant. You come out the forces, go and work. Find it, chase it, do what you have to. And there's so many like successful stories, and I found it a lot with the circles I'm moving in at the minute with my charity bike ride and the world records and stuff like that. There's so many success stories as well as there are failures from coming out of the military. Yeah. But all the lads, like a guy who was partnered with on the civilian version of Hunted is a guy called Jordan Wiley. And the guy is probably one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. He'll do anything for anybody. Just before Christmas, he was out in the Antarctica, made 3 first ascents of mountains, and then a trek to the South Pole. And he's done that. Nobody's handed him that. So it's on you. Yeah. Like, now for me, like the professional golf, the skydiving, the close protection work, the rugby, going setting world records this year, everything I do, it's because of me. Nobody's handed it me. I've had to work for it. And people look at your story and they see, like, there was a video I watched the other day, and it was like, everybody says, why do you work so hard, why are you crazy doing that, until you're successful, and then they're like, that came easy for him. And nobody looks at that bit behind. And that's the big thing with the bike ride. What I'm trying to do is, with the social media side of things, I'm trying to show the highs and all, because I'm cycling 2,517 miles across America on one leg. Like, to cycle that distance in 22 days maximum, it'll be tough with two legs as a cyclist. As you can tell looking at me, I'm not built like a cyclist. I think I'm about 112 kilograms now. Going up hills is really tough at that weight. I've never been the size of a cyclist. I've always been a big lad. But I've got to work for it. People will watch the ride at the end. We're making a documentary out of it, and people are going to watch that back and be like, oh, he smashed that, hasn't he? Because I will do it, and I'll finish it in the record time, and I'll complete it, because I've seen it already. Every night I go to bed, we drove it for our honeymoon, Route 66, and I know what Santa Monica Pier looks like, and the amount of times I've visioned riding down that pier to that finish line, and like jumping off the end into water or something daft like that. But I've seen it, I know it's going to happen. So when people watch it, they'll be like fair play. But I'm going to document it from now, showing like I've only just got two lungs working. Like, hills kill me. Like, showing
the training.
It doesn't come easy. You've got to work for it. You've got to have a strong enough why.
100%.
And that's the same thing. Like, the lads who come out, that they might go, and it's tough to reach out. It is, but there are things out there if you do really need them. Or just lean on your oppos, your mates and stuff. If you don't, you're gonna spire. And I'm a firm believer in, it doesn't matter where you are, what your scenario is, you can change your life. So don't blame it on anybody else. You've only got you to blame. I feel like it'd be nice if the government or the country helped servicemen better. I go out to the States a lot. I get treated so much better out there than I do here. The amount of people that are proud of you out there, you don't get that here. But that doesn't matter. That doesn't stop me from going doing what I want to do, does it?
Do it anyway.
So go and, if you want to get through doors, don't knock at them, just kick the fuckers down.
100%. So obviously the bike ride, you said about the why behind the bike ride. First of all, what is the why behind the bike ride? I
think it was after lying in hospital last year, third time in my life that I should be dead and I'm not. I wanted to, a few people have said it to me since, like, look, you've had this bad thing on your lungs, you should have been dead, like, why don't you just take it easy? And I'm like, why should I? You've got this one beautiful life. What a tragedy would it be to just sit there and not do anything with it? So I look at the opposite side and say, right, let's go to the extreme. And it's a physical cardiovascular challenge that's really going to challenge my lung capacity now, but also my prosthetic. So it shows me, not just shows the world what you can achieve if you set your mind to it and work hard for it, but I'm going to show myself again. And I've got them two little eyes looking up at me the whole time. I've got a picture from when I played golf and I was on the British Open and being interviewed by Di Doherty, and my little lad was at home watching it, and he just started walking and he's walked up to the TV and my wife's took a picture of him trying to touch me on telly, and that picture always reminds me that whatever I do, he's watching it. So let's show him that you can achieve what you want if you work hard for it. And that's the, going back to what you were saying about society at the minute, they're the examples we need to be showing, that you can still, nothing comes easy, you've got to work for it. So as long as I can keep showing him that, and he can then go on and achieve whatever he wants to, but he knows as long as he works hard for it, he'll get whatever he wants, then it's worth putting myself through 22 days of pain.
So in terms of obviously you're going down Route 66, but just break it down how long it is, how much you're focusing on doing per day, and when you expect to finish. So
it's 2,517 miles, Chicago to LA. The days differ. It's not a set amount a day. Well, it kind of is, but it's not like I'm going to do 120 mile every day for 22 days. The maximum days I'm going to do it in is 22. If I can do it quicker, I will. There's going to be stages when you get out to the desert, because I've got an RV coming with me, that's going to be basically my base to sleep. But once you get to like the desert stages, there's a lot longer periods with no resources, like no supplies, nothing. So them days, I think there's one day, the longest day I've got to do is about 165 mile. But then there's some days near the start where you're going through like Chicago and St. Louis and stuff like that, where you've got a lot more choice. So I'll only have to do like 85, 90 them days. So it's all going to play. And then obviously there's going to be days where I'm in a really bad place and I can't do 100 miles. But then there's going to be days when I get to 100 miles and be like, do you know what, I'm feeling good today. Let's keep going. As long as the route allows, I'll get as much as I can done on a daily basis. Obviously, I'll be restricted at some points due to what is around and where we need to end up for that day. I think we're gonna try and aim for at least one day a week where we try and get a motel and actually have a proper bed for a night and a proper shower. But other than that, yeah, it's just gonna be get me head down in an RV on a car park somewhere and get up and get going again. But it's all come together really nicely, to be fair, because this year's the 100th anniversary of Route 66, which, again, if you think about what the history of Route 66 was, it was the mother road that took everybody from east to west, chasing fame, fortune, a new life, because it was poverty-stricken at the time in Chicago. Everybody wanted to get out and get to where it was meant to be gold and fame and fortune in LA, and basically the whole Route 66 is rebirth. It's people wanting to have that fresh start. So it links with that. And then as well, I found out the other day it's the 250th anniversary of Independence Day this year. Which is obviously July the 4th, which that's the Americans' rebirth away from independence from us. But now we're close allies and friends. So it's nice how it's come full circle. So it works out. It's going to be an epic trick. It'd be epic anyway, but everything seems to have fallen in place to just make it right for now.
For you, why choose ultra events in your opinion? Like what guided you towards ultra events? Because you've done one before, haven't you? You did something in a wheelchair.
Oh no, I did before I had my leg amputated. Actually, I cycled from Gretna Green back to West Orton, where I was living at the time. Pilled out my head on tramadol, but I knew I was having my leg amputated.
Right, okay.
So somebody asked me to do it, and I was like, do you know what? Let's just destroy this leg before it goes. Like, I was in absolute agony, and I can remember one of my friends who did it with me, and we were cycling up Shap, and I was in absolute agony, but I got to the top purely off the fact of watching him in front of me. And as I caught up to him, I was like, mate, you need to keep pedalling. He was like, I am. I was like, you're not. And all of a sudden he just went bump onto his side. So at that point I was like, I can't do that. So I carried on going. I did a golf challenge, which was kind of like an endurance one. I played golf from sunrise to sunset non-stop for a local girl near us who had this disease, and she needed to get out to Germany for treatment, but it was ridiculously expensive. And she had I think it was 3 kids, and we were pregnant with Archie at the time, and my wife was telling me a story, and I was starting welling up at home, and I was like, I need to do something for this. So I did that one, which I had to walk and carry my clubs all day, sunrise to sunset. That was pretty epic. And then we did another one on a driving range, and this one sounds really easy, but this was probably one of the hardest ones we did. Was between 4 of us, we had to hit 1 million yards with a golf ball.
1 million yards. No.
So at the time I thought it was going to be easy, because at the time I was hitting a drive over 300 yards, so I was like, it's a bit of doddle this, wasn't it?
You ain't hitting that every time.
No, after about 100 balls, you're then hitting a 9-iron about 20 yards. Yeah. So yeah, by the end of the day, my hands were stuck like that, and we were in agony. So that was a tough one. I've done quite a few different events, but this will be the most epic. Yeah,
it sounds extreme. It sounds very extreme.
But there's a strong message with this one as well, especially after my blood clot last year and everything I've been through. And I think I'd kind of got comfortable before that, where I'd not done anything as crazy for a while. And like I say, I was driving trucks, and I blame that on rehabbing my knee. But I think I just got out, I was getting up in the morning, going work at 6, driving a truck all day, coming home, having tea with my family, ended up in pub. And I could see that comfortability come back, and I was like, and it sounds daft, but I'm more comfortable when I'm uncomfortable. I'm more happy, and when I've got something to drive and push me, and we've got them crazy things happening, that's when I'm happiest, and I'm doing something amazing. Even at weekends, going out with the family, going track climbing a mountain, or going on, we took my little lad on a 10-mile hike the other week, And we'd not been out on a hike for a while, to instead of doing like a 2-3 building up, we're just like, oh, come on, we'll go smash a 10-mile one, which I don't think he thanked us for a couple of days. But yeah, it's when I'm doing stuff like that, and especially outdoors, active, like, it's so good for your mental state as well. Yeah. But this one just, I think there's a lot riding on this one for, excuse the pun, more off the fact that I need to show myself again what I can do and what I can achieve, and like you the only limits you put on yourself are yourself, really. Nobody else can tell you what you can and can't do, can you? So and if I can bring that story to the world, obviously I do my reborn talks, and at the end of them you always get the question, what's next? And I got to a point where I didn't have a next, and so I needed one. So I thought, why not go for the most craziest thing I can think of?
Yeah. I think that I resonate a lot with that, because I just did one in the summer. I did a charity run. It was a 100-mile run, and it was the same thing. People ask me like, why did you do it? And it was like you almost feel like a complacency comes in to your life, and like, you know, at specific points where you can't kind of reaching that bit of a plateau where you're thinking there's nothing here, and I'm just sort of going on to the next day just like everyone else, and I'm not pushing myself. And I think that's what ultra gives you. Like, I don't know about you, but when I've done the ultra events in the past, it gives you that, like, it's like a perspective change, like immediately. Like, I almost learned more in that 24 hours than I did in the past 8 years, probably since I left uni or whatever it was. And it kind of just accelerates your knowledge and accelerates your perspective, and it sort of defeats that bit of complacency that you felt, at least for a time.
Yeah, definitely.
Until the next one, like you just said.
I think it kind of backs up as well. Obviously, I talk about it. I go and try and teach this mindset thing to the world. I feel like I've got to kind of show it as well. And obviously as well, don't get me wrong, I'm trying to raise 100 grand for charity at the same time, so that's a big factor, and it's for charities that are quite close to my heart as well, so that means a hell of a lot to me as well. Being able to give back. They're all 4 charities are military orientated charities as well, so it does give back to them lads who do need it. But yeah, I think if I'm willing to preach it, I've got to live that life as well. 100%. Which I think this personifies the reborn mindset in spades, to be honest. I think.
I wish you the best of luck, because you'll definitely need it.
Yeah.
So we always finish the podcast off with 4 of our last questions that we always ask our guests. So, what is the worst piece of advice you've ever had?
Don't eat yellow snow. No, I don't know. I don't think you can say you can ever get bad advice.
How so?
Purely for the fact that everything in life's a lesson. And I genuinely believe that. As I said to my little lad about them spellings, you learn from everything, whether it's good or bad advice. Yeah. There's no stupid question. Like, the only stupid question is the questions that's not asked. If you get a piece of bad advice and you act on it, you're gonna learn from it. So it's technically not bad advice. That's actually give you a lesson.
I've never actually thought of it like that. That's the first time I've actually heard that. But you are right, because you know, the bad advice. I kind of related to what you just said then, of like, even when people have given me good advice, they're like, oh, don't do that, or you know, you end up going to have to do it anyway to learn not to do it. Right. Or you're like, whether, like you said, whether you follow then the bad advice, and then you realise, oh well, that's not something I should do in future. And then that's an interesting.
A friend of mine, he's just had a baby, and I was talking to him the other day, and I said to him, I was like, can I give you a bit of advice? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, whatever anybody tells you, don't listen to it. I said, just make your own way. Everything's different. Like, loads of it, when we had Archie, loads of people try giving you advice, and just because it worked with their kid don't mean it's going to work with yours. Yeah. And that's the same with that. Like, any bit of advice somebody gives me, I'll take it on board, I'll learn from it, and I'll be like, well, do you know what, I don't quite agree with that, or I do agree with it, let's try it. Nope, it's not right. But it comes back to that adversity equation. The adversity is the advice. Your response is whether it's positive or negative outcome. So sorry to not give you a good piece,
that's a
bad piece of advice for that one.
Inadvertently gave me a great answer. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
I watched a video. I love like mindset and motivational videos, and there's one with Tom Hanks and I think Denzel Washington's in the room.
When they're doing the big table.
Yeah.
I know what you're going to say.
Tom Hanks comes out of it and he says, "This too shall pass." You're going through a good time, this too will pass. You're going through a bad time, this too shall pass.
Yeah.
And as long as you remember that, like, nothing like, and that's the same with my ride next year. Like, I know it is going to hurt a lot, especially when I get over that finish line. I'm going to be a broken man for a little while. But this too shall pass.
Yeah.
But what's left is an epic story and an epic achievement. So, yeah, I think that's definitely up there.
Yeah,
definitely.
100% the right way to look at it. What is the thing you value most in life?
I'd say my family. 100%.
And then to you, what is the meaning of life?
You get one, live it to its extremes. It's a gift. Every day is a gift. That's why it's the present. Like, it's not a gimmicky thing. That it's 100% true. The meaning of life to me is just go out there and chase your dreams and live a full, wholesome life.
Really appreciate it. And what is next for you? Obviously, you got the bike ride coming up. Do you want to tell people where they can find the charity page, where they can find your page, etc.?
Yeah, majority of things at the minute run through my Instagram, which is at OneLeg87. The charity page is linked on my bio. That's where I'm documenting everything. We are bringing a documentary out about the bike ride itself and some of the training, but that'll come post ride. There will be snippets, everything about what I'm doing. I'm blogging and vlogging and learning a lot of new terminology in that type of world. I'm updating progress constantly. Sharing like I say, Instagram's the best, isn't it? But I'm trying to show the rest as well. Trying to show the days I don't want to train, but I still go and do it. The days when I don't want to train and I don't do it, and I feel bad for not doing it. It'll all be documented on there. So if anybody wants a little pick me up and they want to, or just drop me a message, I'll try and get back to anybody who messages me. If you're going through something and you need someone to talk to, I'm happy to offer advice if I can.
Yeah.
I don't have all the answers, but I've lived enough experiences and been through more than majority of the population in my life that I think I've got a good background to come from.
Yeah, I'd say it's fair to say you've had a hard life so far, and it's about to get harder.
Yeah, definitely.
But we'll take all your links and it'll be in the description in the bio. So
it.
yeah, we'll definitely plug all that in. But I really want to appreciate first of all your service, and then obviously for coming on the podcast and sharing your stories. It's one of inspiration and one that we'll definitely go forward and track ourselves as well and keep into contact.
I
really appreciate you
it,
coming on, Aaron. Thank you very much, pal.
Thank you very much for having me.
Top man.